Welcome to All Things ACC Podcast, a news site covering all athletics and for every program in the ACC Conference, as we bring you weekly discussions on several different topics around the nation. I'm your host this week, Patrick O'Brien here. Wanted to mix it up a little bit, kind of bring a little new intro there. There's a new song that I've been kind of catching with this past week there. Kind of mix it up here with all things ACC. Keep it free going here this coming week here. Apologize early on here that the Tuesday morning kind of podcast didn't come out a little earlier. Been kind of swamped, working hard with all things ACC, working with some of our writers. And checking up, getting their stuff ready, and working, trying to catch up with everything that's going on in the ACC. A lot has been going on, especially this past week, this past weekend. I know there was only 4 games on the schedule, but with those games, we did come away with some things, some answers, some questions, stuff like that there. And we really want to just jump right into here about this Week 8 kind of wrap up there. We're going to start with, obviously, the game that first was on the schedule last week. Virginia Tech, Miami there. Impressive win again for the Hokies. Continued their win streak. Solid performances on Thursday night, especially in Blacksburg. They took down the Hurricanes in fashion. The Hokies were able to do what I was able to speak about last week when we previewed them. I thought they had to run the ball effectively without Gerard Evans. They were able to do that. They had over 100 yards rushing there. They were able to move the ball and not depend so much on Gerard Evans throwing. They also had to get pressure against the quarterback, Miami's quarterback, Brad Kaya. They did that. I think they had 8 sacks in that game. The defense really stepped up, even if they had some key components missing from last week for the Hokies. The crowd really got behind them. I mean, I don't know if you watched it on ESPN, but they did that kind of little special little take, a preview of Blacksburg on Thursday night, especially when Enter Sandman comes along there. The crowd was into it. The defense was solid. They really limited the offensive game of the Hurricanes now. Now they've lost 3 straight after they lost to FSU, UNC. Now Virginia Tech. 2 of those really key losses in the Coastal Division. Sitting right now at 4-3. You kind of would have to think that they're kind of dead in the Coastal Division. Now, granted, right when you say that, something could happen. But with 3 losses already and 3 other teams that only have 1 right now. There's very slim chance of them coming back and having any chance in the Coastal Division, if any, to be honest with you. So after that 4-0 start, they really need to ride this ship and really finish off the season pretty strong. They still can get that bowl eligibility and everything that they're working on. So, but the Hokies come away impressed. Like I said, they took care of business in fashion. Now they're going to be going up on this Thursday against Pittsburgh there, another key matchup that we'll be talking about a little bit later, obviously in the ACC there. The other game that we wanted to look at, watch was Louisville, simply crushing the Wolfpack at NC State. To be honest with you, when I first came in watching this game, and I've watched several NC State Wolfpack games in the past and this season. I just had a feeling that the Cardinals were going to come out and they were going to dominate. I thought it was going to be about a 24-point victory, something like that. Obviously, they did more than that behind Lamar Jackson. They got out quick. I think they were up at halftime 44-0, and that's pretty impressive, scoring 44 points in the first half. Especially a team, NC State, that just came off a near victory against Clemson. To be honest with you, I think it was kind of like the perfect storm between those two teams. The Cardinals had a least impressive, less than impressive victory over Duke, and I think people started a little bit doubting them. Teams go through that, so obviously throughout the year. Um, and then the Wolfpack getting the hearts taken out against Clemson in that loss there. I think that had a toll on them. Being there and that close to pulling off the upset and then eventually losing in that kind of fashion, it's hard to not have that in the back of your head. And then especially going against a Louisville offense with Lamar Jackson, with the doubters and talking to him, in the background. I felt like it's just, like I said, a perfect storm for those two teams, and not too surprising that it was a blowout win. But Jackson continued his Heisman leader kind of campaign there. Had over 400 total yards. Like I said, got out to that quick start. Scored 44 points in the first half and never looked back. The Cardinals, the defense came out and really slowed down NC State there. Especially, they want to establish the run. They only limited them to 14 total yards on 25 rushes. That's pretty impressive against a team that has been very solid in the run game all year long. Created some turnovers with the quarterback, Finley. They were just dominant in all aspects of that game there. So impressive win. Louisville's back in the discussion now. They're ranked number 5 in the discussion for the college playoff. If they continue to keep on doing this, it's going to be hard to see which team gets in there in the final if they continue to win out and everything. So impressive win for the Cardinals, and they're right back on schedule for this coming week there. So they should be ready up and geared to go for their run in the end of the season there. The next game that we had on our schedule was actually the UNC UVA matchup. One of the longest matchups between those two teams. It was interesting to watch these two teams. Now, these two teams certainly can put up points and offensively. They had the capabilities to do that. It was just going to see kind of some question marks there. Two things: the UNC defense has really kind of been stepping up their game a little bit more than they have to start the season. They just struggled against Virginia Tech. They had a solid one against Miami defensively. Now they did that against the Virginia, especially against a quarterback that's been, I would say solid. Curtin Benkert, pretty solid for the Cavaliers this season. They only limited him to 126 passing yards. I think that might have been his lowest for the season so far. I think they scored one touchdown, but the only other touchdown they scored was actually on the fake field goal. If you happen to catch that, it was pretty impressive. When watching that on TV, I honestly didn't know what was going on. And then saw the flags and everything, but eventually it was called a touchdown. And sometimes it's great to see plays like that kind of work out, and you just sit there and kind of wonder how did that happen, or how in the world do you even come up with that kind of play there, and then let alone it works when you first try it there. So North Carolina had some questions on offense. Mac Hollins, one of their deep threats. It'd be interesting to see how they kind of spread the field. I think Bug Howard has now become the go-to guy, deep threat. He had over 100 yards again receiving in this one. Elijah Hood got the ball rolling. He had his second 100-yard rushing this season, which I kind of find that surprising when I heard about that. It's only his second this year after such a dominant kind of year. But I guess that's how kind of the Heels offense is rolling this year behind Trubisky. He had another 300-yard passing. He's continued his successful season, except that one game against I should say 2 games against Georgia and Virginia Tech. Other than that, he's been pretty dominant passing the ball there. So UNC took care of the Virginia 35-14. Still atop of the ACC Coastal Division at 4-1. Virginia Tech is at 3-1 right now. UNC is on a bye this week, so Virginia Tech can get back up in the first place and own that tiebreaker win and own a half-game lead over the Heels if they can come away with a win this week there. The last game that we wanted to talk about, kind of review, was the Syracuse Boston College. It was a hard-fought win. I was watching this game, going flipping back and forth between this one. Syracuse now got the 28-20 victory. Both teams were going back and forth. It was, they were able to get to the playmakers, especially, like Syracuse, Edatoa, over 1,000 yards receiving. They got him the ball there. If you saw, took advantage of that one-handed catch that he had for the touchdown. That was pretty impressive. Now the Syracuse Orange are back to 500 overall and in conference play. They're at 4-4, 2-2 in the ACC, and they're looking, to start the season, you didn't really think that they could be a bowl-eligible team. They're looking like it. They could get that sixth win. I know ESPN just wrote about that, and I would say probably the most surprising player that I could personally say is Eric Dungey, quarterback play. I mean, he behind Lamar Jackson. I think he has the most yards on scrimmage yards there that behind Lamar Jackson, if I'm correct. I could be. I think they're battling 1 and 2 right now. But he had over another 400-yard passing performance, and that's coming off a victory over the Hokies, where he threw for 300 and ran for another 100. So it's back-to-back 400-yard performances. So he's really been a spark for that offense and that program, to be in all honesty. And I think with his play and continued dominance on the offensive end, and their defense really, they're working on the holes and everything, and they're still, they're coming together, and you can see they're getting better each week by week there. They're able to take care of Boston College. The defense, like I just said, they actually held Eagles quarterback Towles to I think 7 for 20 for 64 yards. Again, quarterback play question mark for the Eagles. There, it's been there like that all year. But they actually had a pretty impressive rushing attack. They had 223 rushing yards in the loss there. So they did get some offense going. Just didn't have enough in the end. And like I said, the defense can only hold them so much, especially against playmakers like Dungey and Edatoa there. But it was a close game. Syracuse got the win, back to 500, and they were looking like they could be a bowl-eligible kind of team there. So, and now, kind of when talking about those 4 games, it kind of gives you a little sense of how each division is kind of working out there. Now, obviously, Atlantic Division, you got Clemson, Louisville. It's going to be there. Florida State, they have a chance to make some noise this week. Going against Clemson, that will be that's going to be the game in the ACC and probably mostly around the nation there. I think it's prime time, 8 o'clock kickoff there on ESPN there. Clemson's still at the top. They're undefeated. Louisville sits at 4-1. They need Florida State to take down Clemson. Even though Clemson would held the head-to-head matchup, they have to have some kind of chance. Clemson pretty much has to lose 2, and Louisville wins out for Louisville have a chance to get to the ACC championship. Florida State sits at 2-2. It would be great for them to get back to over 500. They haven't had that this season in conference play. They're at 2-2. Wake Forest is at 2-2. Syracuse, like I just said, is at 2-2. NC State, after their loss to the Cardinals, is at 1-2. And Boston College fell to 0-4 with their loss against the Orange there. Like I said, the battle is going to be between those top 2 teams. It'll be interesting to see the 3 2-2 teams there. Florida State. They're going against Clemson this week. Wake Forest at 2-2. They've been an impressive team. I think if I remember correctly, they're sitting at 5-2, and they could become bowl eligible this week if they can win. I think they're playing Army if I remember correctly. So they won't be playing a conference game, but they'll be You'll have Syracuse as well at 2-2. It'd be interesting to see kind of which teams kind of step up and get to that bowl eligibility kind of aspect in the coming weeks. There, NC State's got some work to do. They got some tough schedule as well. We wrote about this about 3 weeks ago. This was going to be their toughest part of the schedule. They still have some more against some games like Florida State, North Carolina. They just their toughest schedule was this past 3 games. They beat Notre Dame. That was a must win for them. Had a chance to beat Clemson and got dominated by Louisville. It would have been nice if they could get a 2-1, and that could have been really put the Wolfpack and really change their season to kind of like a Penn State kind of season there. That's the closest thing I can kind of compare it to. Now Penn State coming in took down Ohio State like we saw. It's changed the whole dynamic of that program right now. It really has been the monument win for them. They could have had that against Clemson. It didn't happen. Now they're at 1-2. They got to turn things around. They got some still good games coming up. Florida State. They play Boston College this week. That should be a win for them, in my opinion. They got North Carolina. That's always a huge rivalry game over the Thanksgiving weekend there. So State can certainly bounce back and get back to riding the ship and continue the trend upward for Dave Doran. But it was a tough kind of stretch for going 1-2 in those last 3 games there. Now the question marks that everybody's kind of be looking at is the Coastal Division. UNC sits at the top with 4-1. Virginia Tech 3-1. They own the tiebreaker, like I mentioned before, against Carolina with their win about 2 weeks ago. Pittsburgh sits at 2-1. Looking at these schedules, I would have to say UNC. I would go with UNC as the easier schedule. They have a bye week this week. They play Georgia Tech. It's at home. They play at Duke. Duke has been struggling, but it's always a rivalry. Thursday night. It's a Thursday night game in this one. That's always it's gonna be a tough one, but I still think the offensive firepower can take care of the Duke Blue Devils there. And then they play Citadel, non-conference matchup. That should be a win. And then the toughest one is going to be at NC State, I would say. The Tar Heels always have trouble with Georgia Tech. I've watched it many times before. That's always been a close battle between those two teams. So it could be a little bit tough. I have to give the edge, obviously, to Carolina. I think they're the better team. But with that rushing attack by the Yellow Jackets there, it can always give problems to the Tar Heels defense there. Virginia Tech, they obviously have a huge matchup against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh on a Thursday night this week. Then they're at Duke versus Georgia Tech, at Notre Dame versus UVA. All those, I think this is going to be their toughest battle there. If they can get over against the Panthers, they'll be in sole possession of the first place, and I think they're going to be favored to win the rest of their games. At Duke, they shouldn't have a problem with them. Georgia Tech, it'll be at home. They should be favored. At Notre Dame, even though they struggle, they can put up points. And it's at Notre Dame, so question mark on that one. That might be their toughest. And then versus Virginia, they've had their number for quite a few years. They should be favored in that one as well. There, and then Pittsburgh, they have a tough. They're sitting at 2-1. They would love to beat the Hokies, but it doesn't get any easier after that. They have a tough back schedule there. It's going at Miami. They're in a must-win kind of situation there. At Clemson versus Duke and versus Syracuse, a much improved Syracuse team. So that will be interesting. If I had to give it to the two teams, I obviously would go with the battle between the Hokies and Carolina. The next team, obviously, I think these two teams need to win out if they want to really solidify themselves and hope for the other one to stumble some in the coming weeks there. Obviously, Virginia Tech would own the tiebreaker in that one, but I think it's going to come down to those two teams in the Coastal Division. Still some question marks in that one. A big matchup this week between those two, the Panthers and the Hokies on Thursday night there. That will help to clarify, clear a little bit of the air with the Coastal Division in that one there. So I think after this week we'll have some questions that will be answered and really have a kind of a little bit firmer grasp of who will be in the running for that division right there. So definitely a good battle going on in each division this coming week there. So certainly pay attention as we will talk a little bit about some of the top 25 this past week, some college playoff a little bit. I got my top 4 teams. And I'll even make a case for another team that's just right outside there that can make some noise there. So just stay tuned with us. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk some more college football. If you'd like to become a writer for All Things ACC, please email us at allthingsacc1@gmail.com. Welcome back to All Things ACC after that quick commercial break. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit of top 25 there this past week. Had some big winners, big losers there, top 4 teams, and some upcoming matchups that we're looking at that will be big players in the college football race there, and especially the playoffs there. Right now, we'll start off with the top 4 here. I mentioned it over social media. My top 4 is going to be the same 4 teams in the top in the AP poll there, but I got a little different rotation on that one there. I have Alabama clearly number 1. They've been number 1. They've proven it. They dominate. I mean, there's no question marks around there. And now the question is, can anybody beat them? They scored another defensive touchdown. They've been impressive, blowing out people. They've been taking care of business. They are the clear, by far, number 1 team in the nation there. My second team, though, is a little different than the AP poll. They have Michigan. I have Clemson. I honestly think Clemson overall better. I like the talent overall and the playmakers that they have now. They both match up very well. It would be great to watch these two teams go at it because it'd be hard to pick a team there. But if I had to choose, if everybody was healthy at that time there, I'd pick Clemson with a slight edge, both the offensive abilities and defensive abilities, and the difference maker, Deshaun Watson. I think that he comes up big plays, big games. He shows it. He showed it against Louisville, that 5 touchdown performance. I think with him in the backfield, playing quarterback, I put them just slightly above Michigan, but not by much there. Number 3, I have Michigan, and number 4, I have Washington. Washington's been. I don't see how you don't have Washington in the top 4 for people. Yeah, they're in the Pac-12. It's been dropping down a little bit and everything. But they've been blowing out people. They've been beating people by 34 points on average this season, and it's not even close in most of these games. They dominated Oregon. Anybody that Stanford. They had another impressive win this week there. That you have to have Washington right now in the top 4, undefeated, and if they continue to win out, they will be conference champs. That one, and looking at the college football, number 1 criteria for that one is you are the conference champion there. That's what they're going to look at there. It's going to be hard to not have them there if they are undefeated right at the top there. That's who I have 4 right there. My next ones I would have are Louisville with their impressive win over NC State. And then next one is Ohio State. Even though they lost this past weekend, they still have a chance because they still have to play Michigan. If they can beat Michigan, hello, you're right back in there and looking to compete for the top 4 for the college football playoff. A lot of people have those top 4, and I really think, honestly, and I was watching ESPN the other day, that Louisville has a legit shot at being, if they can win out. Now, granted, that Houston, they do play Houston, which has dropped out of the top 25. It hurts them tremendously, but they continue to dominate, and they have that one X factor. Somebody said they have Lamar Jackson, and opponents do not want to see him. It would be great to watch Lamar Jackson and on a neutral field against those top 4 teams because, and that defense has been, by far, has been, excelled my expectations for the Cardinals there. If any team slips up in the top four, watch out for the Cardinals there. It'll be hard. Now, granted, it'll be a they won't be in the conference championship if Clemson wins out. But it'd be hard not to have them in there if another team continues to slip there. So those are my top four. The other two teams looking in there. A lot of people are kind of switching between Louisville, Washington. Right now, I'd put Washington undefeated in the conference there. So some of the biggest winners from the top 25: Auburn simply crushing Arkansas. They're now sitting at 5-2. And look at this. I was watching the ESPN on Monday afternoon. They were talking about how much turnaround there has been in just 1 year. You don't see too many. See how many times do you see in a year that teams you leave for dead and then they come back alive here just weeks later. There, Auburn's one of them. They were sitting at 1-2, and then they defeated LSU. Now they're sitting at 5-2. They're a top 15 team. Their two losses. One of them was to Clemson, start of the season. They almost had they fought the Tigers pretty well in the opening there, and now they're really turning it on. They crushed Arkansas this week. They've been really impressive. Another big winner, LSU, and hello Leonard Fournette. Welcome back to the college football scenery. Oh boy, over 200 something yards rushing. Buried some people in the ground when he was doing it, and wow, I would say if he continues running like that, welcome back to the Heisman race right there. They defeated Ole Miss, a team that's had 3 losses when coming in, but they were against top 25 teams. Now they're out of the top 25. I thought they should have been out of the top 25 after their 3rd loss, but now they're definitely out with that one there. And obviously the biggest winner was Penn State defeating Ohio State. We talked about earlier. Now they're sitting pretty in the top 25. And now their whole season is really changed a whole different avenue of what it could have been if they lost to Ohio State there. They by far, I think, were the definite biggest winners this past week in Week 8. The biggest losers for this top 25, obviously Ohio State, now dropping out of the top 4 and right now missing the college football playoff. They look to bounce back. They still have some tremendous games coming up there, so they can certainly find themselves right back in it there. And then the biggest one that we did mention before is Houston. They went from number 11, and now they're out of the top 25. There's 2 losses after really coming on and being the talk of the town and the nation with their win over Oklahoma earlier in the year. Now they're kind of old news, and it's gonna be hard for them to. They still have a successful season there, but nothing what they hoped to start out for in the beginning of the year there. So that would be the 2 biggest losers, I would say, from this Week 8 there. So that leads into our kind of a final segment here. A little preview, top 25 preview for Week 9. We got 3 games. These are the 3 games that are going to highlight the Week 9 and really could have some weigh in the college football playoff there. Like, bring a little talk there. Number 4 Washington versus number 17 Utah. Both on top of the division, each of their division in the Pac-12. Like I said, Washington's defeating opponents by 34. This could be, if they can make another statement win against number 17 Utah and really take control of this Pac-12. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to not have them in the college football playoff heading down this stretch unless they, continue if they somehow lose to or drop to an opponent there. They could just have another impressive victory against a team that's in the top 25 at number Utah. Utah's been playing well also, so it'll be a good matchup between those 2 teams in that conference there. Another one we're looking at is number 7 Nebraska versus number 11 Wisconsin, and you got a feel for the Badgers there. I mean, they have a gauntlet of a schedule coming in here. Starting off with LSU, had Ohio State, Michigan, now number 7 Nebraska. Nebraska hasn't really faced anybody. This will be their true test. See if they can stay undefeated. They get that signature win. They're now in discussion for the college football playoff right there, moving up. They could put, I think they could probably pass Ohio State in the AP poll if they win against Wisconsin, but that's just maybe my opinion on that one. But certainly this will be a true test of where they stand at in this season. Are they a contender or pretender? That's pretty much answering the question this week for them. Wisconsin's proven that they are the real deal, but they can't afford to lose another one in the conference after losing to Michigan and Ohio State. No, last one, obviously, is going to be the highlight of the ACC. Number 3, Clemson versus number 12, Florida State. Throw out the record books, throw out the numbers. These two teams come to play, and it's going to be on. It's going to be on in Tallahassee for this matchup there. Florida State would love nothing to take down and ruin possible chances for Clemson. Then they can vault themselves back up in the top 10. The Seminoles there sitting at number 12, even though they're at 2-2 in the conference there, ACC conference there, they could really get that signature win and really catapult their season back into where they thought it could have been early on in the season there. Another kind of matchup, I like to give a little under the radar kind of matchup there that to people to look at is USF versus Navy. USF 6-2. They did lose to Florida State earlier. That I watched that game there. Navy 5-1, number 22. This is for first place in kind of the AAC. Is kind of on the line there between those two teams. Obviously, if Navy can continue winning, you can see them kind of vaulting up in the top 25 and really kind of making themselves a candidate for like a New Year's Bowl and stuff like that. USF could, if they could get the win, I think they would be in the top 25 and looking for themselves to make some noise in their rankings coming out in the next week there. So that's just kind of a little under the radar kind of game that just to kind of watch for. Other than that, those are the 3 games to highlight. There are several more that we will talk about. We're going to preview soon the Pittsburgh Virginia Tech game in our ACC Crunch Time. You can check that out this week coming up. And then we'll also do some previews for this coming weekend's game, as well as recap them later on next week there. So we wanted to thank you for joining us on this Tuesday evening there. So again, I apologize, it's a little late here, but we'll continue to put out some content. So check out our podcast. Continue to tell people about it. Tweet us, and retweet our podcast. We want the people to get out there, learn about it. We're gonna hopefully get some more people on. Maybe some. If we can get some special guests and everything going on, we'd greatly have that as well there. But thank you again for all listeners, and thank you all our subscribers at All Things ACC. And like I said, if anybody is interested in joining us in the program there, continue to get in touch with us at allthingsacc1@gmail.com. Till next time, we'll talk to you later, and enjoy college football week.